So before I begin this video, I just want to make it clear that I'm not trying to ruin Christmas in any way. I love Christmas. I love the lights, I love the music, and the time with your family. It's all great. But if you have a special place in your heart for Santa Claus or the Christmas tree, then maybe those feelings are about to change. As we all know, Christmas was originally a holiday known for celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. And over the years, this has become less and less of the case, where we now celebrate the coming of Santa Claus and the gifts that he brings. Which brings me to the question, is Santa the devil? Interestingly enough, the phrase ho 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 originated in the 16th century England, where in Old English plays, they would use the phrase ho 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 to indicate the devil's presence. It used to be referred to as the devil's bluster. One example of this can be found in the play called Rare Triumphs of Love and Fortune, in which it reads, ho ho ho, the devil, a comes upon me, a comes upon me. And there's a famous song that people sing every Christmas that talks about Old Saint Nick. And even when you're not referring to the song, people talk about Santa Claus by referring to him as Old Saint Nick or Jolly Old Saint Nick. But what is an Old Nick? When you Google the words, you will find many resources telling you that it is a nickname and a word used to describe the devil, and also to describe Santa Claus. So once again, we have this parallel between Satan and Santa. And here's another one. John chapter 10 reads a verse about Satan. It says that the devil would not enter into your house through the front door, but instead would, quote, climbeth up some other way, thus coming through the top. Well, this seems to be exactly what Santa does. Now, when I first began to put stock in the things written in this book, it was partly because I had learned about astral projection, and one of the testimonies that exposed the truth about astral projection to me was by an African witch who went by the name of Jonas. He explained that while he was a Satanist, he was told to make two books, one being the Red Book, which was used to cast spells and induce death via witchcraft, and the other was called the Black Book. Now, the Black Book was essentially a naughty list. Allegedly, Lucifer keeps an account of the names of sinners in books, and so again we have yet another close parallel between the story of the devil and the story of Santa Claus. In Canada this year, there has been a lot of commotion in the Christian community in which so-called Christians are furious that certain establishments won't let them put up a Christmas tree. They say that they have a right to practice their religion. But what religion are they really practicing? As it reads in Jeremiah, learn not the ways of the heathen, for the ways of the people are vain. When one cutteth a tree out of the forest with an axe, fasten it with nails, and then deck it with silver and gold. It could not be made any clearer, as the heathen would take a tree, have it fastened to the ground or somehow. This is precisely the practice that people take part in when they're putting up a Christmas tree, and to use the word deck, as it's used in our Christmas carols, they deck it with silver and gold. Now, the waters of Christian tradition have been muddied a lot by the Roman Catholic Church in many ways, and something that I will talk about in my next video. You see in the Roman Catholic Church that many people pray to Mary, when it explicitly says in the Bible that you shall not worship the Queen of Heaven. It's clear that you shouldn't worship anybody or pray to anybody except for Jesus himself if you are a Christian. He states very clearly, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one can come to the Father except through me. So then we must ask, why do Catholics worship, pray, and have rituals for other saints? It's a form of Santeria. It's a form of witchcraft. And it's a deception to take people away from the true teachings of the Bible, and that's exactly what this plastering of St. Nicholas is all about. It's a form of Santeria, worship of the saints. Now, these next two might be a little bit up for debate, but I think just by the 5 points I've already made, it should be pretty obvious by now how Santa is really a metaphor for the devil. Now, in folklore regarding spirits or demons, it is noted that no spirit can come into your house without a formal invitation. And this is precisely the reason that people are warned against using Ouija boards. Spirits, they're not as conspicuous as you may think. They work behind the scenes, and you rarely notice that they are with you unless you have some sort of psychic ability. And of course, many people do not believe in Ouija boards, but just for a moment, let's pretend that we do. The cookies that you put out for Santa... The cookies that you put out for Santa are placed usually in the same spot, in the same configuration, at the same time every year. Now, this legally makes it a ritual in the spiritual world, and by this ritual, you are inviting spirits into your home, even the spirit of Satan, if you cannot see the parallels. Now, in order to keep this video short, I'm not going to go into all of the numerology or information about the significance of the number 9, but if you're new to any of this, it would just be worth it to say that there are numbers with magical properties. And though we have been conditioned to think that this would be a great thing, magical, magic is forbidden for good reason, and it's really not something that you want to mess with. In the Kabbalah, there is a law of reductionism that would reduce the number 666 down to 9, and some people believe that this is why the number 9 represents Satan, but in actuality it is much more complicated than this. I just thought it would be worth it to note in this list, since 9 is a number that represents the devil, that Santa possesses 9 reindeer, horned beasts, if you will, as they are referred to in the Bible, and the 9th one is the most special, as it is Rudolph. So why is Christmas dated on December 25th? Some would believe that it was the day that Jesus was born, but it seems that now evidence suggests that Jesus was actually born sometime in the autumn. But personally, I don't like to debate exactly when Jesus was born. I seriously doubt that we have a date. I definitely don't think we have a date that lines up with December 25th. I think it's much more likely that this date was chosen for another reason. And again, this all goes back to the Roman Catholic Church and their worshipping of the sun. There will be a second part of this video coming in the new year where I will discuss all about the Catholic Church, the inner workings, why it's deceptive. It does relate to Freemasonry, but for now you will just need to do some research on your own if you want to learn about that. But the Catholic Church is notorious for sun worship because of its connection with the Masons and with Egypt. The supreme god of the universe, according to the Egyptians, was named Amun-Ra, and his birthday is on December 25th. His is truly the birthday that you are celebrating, again falling victim to a false Catholic tradition. Lastly, and probably most importantly, is the tradition of Saturnalia. Here's a clip from a segment on the History Channel about the origin of Christmas.
We've all heard the biblical origins of Christmas, but societies have been celebrating light and birth in the darkest days of winter centuries before Jesus walked the earth. In the Norse country, this winter celebration was known as Yule. Around December 21st, the winter solstice, fathers and sons dragged evergreens indoors as reminders of life and set logs on fire as a promise of good fortune. Ancient Rome had its own December festivals. 1 week before the winter solstice, Romans began celebrating Saturnalia, an orgy of food and drink in honor of Saturn, the god of agriculture.
So as you can see, Christmas's earliest origins was from Saturnalia, a pagan tradition denoting the worship of Saturn. The name Satan actually originated from the word Saturn. Set was an Egyptian god, the god of evil, and he was represented by the planet Saturn. Persians started calling it planet Satan, and then it was brought into Christian teachings. So once again, we have this irrefutable parallel between Satan and the way that we celebrate Christmas today. Now, I want to reiterate something I said in the beginning of the video. I'm not saying you can't celebrate Christmas. I'm just saying that we should all try and keep the Christ in Christmas and not make it about Santa Claus. If you're not a Christian and you're celebrating Christmas, then at least acknowledge that you're a pagan and your family is celebrating Satan. If you're not in either of those two categories, then there's no reason for celebrating Christmas. That would be like me celebrating Ramadan when I'm not a Muslim, or a non-Jew celebrating Hanukkah just to get 8 days of presents. It doesn't make sense. To end this, I just want to say that there are really only two giant Christian holidays that have been commercialized in the West, other than things like Ash Wednesday, Good Friday, but the two big holidays are Christmas and Easter, both of which have been completely taken over by caricatures such as Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. The question is why? I know that people will say, oh, well, it's just for fun, and I get that, but my question would be, why is it that the Easter Bunny couldn't have its own day? Why haven't these satirical caricatures taken over holidays from other religions? It's because the devil doesn't care to blaspheme anybody else except for Jesus Christ, and I think that speaks volumes about the authenticity of a religion.